The rookie report for the 2024 NFL Draft quarterbacks has Bo Nix for the Denver Broncos, leapfrog Jayden Daniels for QB1, and Offensive Rookie of the Year. We're going to grade these quarterbacks and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayers. And you know I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. Keep talking to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champion, man, and the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. DP, today's show, we're jumping into the rookie report. You told them yesterday, yes, we are doing it. We are committed to the rookie report. We're going through all four rookie quarterbacks who are playing, first-round quarterbacks who are playing, and talk about their performances a little bit more than halfway through the season. DP, I'm ready to get this conversation started. We have a curveball. Bo Nix, wasn't expecting it. It's going on. It's happening. Rookie of the year. It's gaining momentum. Let's get into this conversation.
You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Bo Nix, keeping, like you said, a curveball, 6'2", 220, senior quarterback. He's almost 25 years old. He'll be 25 in February. Keith, first-round pick, and when he was selected, we didn't know. We weren't sure if this was going to work. Like to the extent that it has, right? But Sean Payton has found his quarterback, the quarterback that can run his offense, the guy that can take the quick passes, that can operate and like work efficiently. And when you look at the past, let's say 4 games, right, against Carolina Panthers, 284 yards passing, 3 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He did have that game against Baltimore, where Baltimore basically kind of shut him down. He had 223 yards passing, 0 touchdowns passing, 0 passing touchdowns. He threw an interception, and he completed less than 58% of his passes in that game. Kansas City, he was solid, right? 22 of 30, 73.3% completion percentage, 215 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and he was able to push the ball downfield a little bit on one of those touchdowns. And then against Atlanta, the game against Atlanta, Keith, in week 11 was so telling, man. 28 of 33, 84.8, almost 85 completion percentage, 307 yards passing, 4 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Over these last 4 weeks, Keith, when you hear those numbers and you watch the games and you watch the tape, what is your grade for Bo Nix? And is he your favorite right now? Did he jump Jayden Daniels as the kind of betting odds favorite going forward for the Offensive Rookie of the Year award?
Yeah, I think if you're looking at trends, right, who's trending upward, who's trending, I guess, yeah, I mean, you have to say downwards, right, for Jayden Daniels. Just as far as the electric performances have kind of tailored off some, I think Bo Nix has to be the favorite, right? Because you look at Drake Maye, I think Drake Maye is playing solid football for a rookie in a very difficult situation, right? And then I think you look at Caleb, that situation is just wild in itself, right? A few days ago with Sunday football, I mean, he played well, right? But they still lost. So I think he's still gathering his rhythm and routine, and the Chicago Bears are trying to figure that out. So yeah, if you're looking at rookies, right, outside of another position, I think it's Bo Nix right now. And I think that's something, DP, we went on, right? We was on here talking about it and discussing it. And we said for ourselves that might have been the toughest situation, right, of all the quarterback drafted situation, the Patriots and the Broncos. And Bo Nix is playing good football right now.
100%. And it's crazy because and kind of to premise it, right? Like, we definitely thought that. We were like, man, I don't know about Denver, because we were like, what receivers? Who is he throwing to?
Who they have?
Well,
yep.
What we didn't know, Keith, is that he was going to have the best offensive line out of all the rookie quarterbacks. We didn't see that coming, right? We didn't think, because what do we hear all offseason from Chicago Bears fans? When you try to invoke, well, the offensive line like could use some pieces, right? It's like, no, it was Justin Fields holding the ball too long. It was Justin Fields causing these sacks. Then we get to the season, right? Like we looked at the situation for Caleb, like, man, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, and it's like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. And we'll talk about Caleb and Jayden on the next topic. But it was we looked at the skill position, like, man, this is a great situation. Then the offensive line didn't play well, and it was like, well, maybe you should have invested more in the offensive line, right? Like Denver Broncos offensive line, I think there's a stat that said they have been the highest graded and best pass protecting offensive line in football,
which is huge.
Which is huge because when you go look at Bo Nix, especially I think you go back to early in the season, right? I think when they played the Saints in week 7, right? 61.5% completion percentage, 164 yards passing. He had some turnover-worthy throws and plays in that game. Why? Because the Saints were able to generate some pressure, move them off the spot, and make them uncomfortable. But this offensive line has played so well, hit that connection. And I think at one point we were like, man, like maybe Cortland Sutton could be a trade candidate for some like contending teams. Yeah, Denver's not giving them up now, right? Like they're not giving him up. Like that connection between Cortland Sutton and Bo Nix is major. And like you talked about, I think it was yesterday's pod where you said, man, perfect pairing, putting Emeka Egbuka. Just at this point, the Broncos have to look at it and feel very good, right? Like we've seen now. We got to be honest. We're seeing how, what's the phrase, right? The phrase is the NFL defensively, they take a year. They take the off season to figure out what you do well, what makes you tick, and how they can counter it, right? We're seeing that with CJ Stroud a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, like they've had some injuries in Houston, stuff like that. Stroud's still playing good football. He's not playing to the level he played last year because defenses kind of know the ins and outs of that offensive scheme and what CJ Stroud likes to do. Now, again, you lost your number one receiver for like 6 or 7 weeks. That has an impact, and the offensive line hasn't been great, but still. So, yeah, defenses are get accustomed to this Sean Payton, Bo Nix-led offense. But the way Bo Nix is playing, man, and it's crazy because he hasn't had to use his legs, even though he's a really good athlete. He hasn't had to run and display that much at all this season, maybe a couple games earlier, but he's just operating the offense. He's being the point guard. And I think for him, as Sean Payton dials up the one-on-one throws down the field, right? You get into money, what's it called? The shot play territory. You're at your 45, at the 50-yard line, 1st and 10. You get a play action pass and you chucking it deep. Whether it's to Marvin Mims, you're trying to get Marvin Mims going, you want to go get Devon Vele going, or to Cortland Sutton. At the end of the day, when I look at the grade, I'm giving them an A-. I think that, like I said, that Baltimore game keeps it from being an A+, because that was a defense that's been, they were like one of the worst passing defenses in the league all season. And like I was surprised he didn't light them up because everybody has lit them up to this point, besides Russell Wilson, and they still won that game. That was the only blemish in these last 4 games. He's been outstanding. He's played great ball, man. And yeah, I give him an A. And he is right now, and I blame that rib injury, Keith. Like when Jayden Daniels got hurt, he took that shot to the ribs, and he hasn't been the same since. Like he's not like fully torquing the ball, trusting the turn in his core and his torso. Yeah, man, I think Bo Nix is the leading favorite right now. I don't see how he couldn't be.
Yeah, 100% with DP. Listen, we talked Bo Nix, but you laid already into Jayden Daniels. So this is what we're going to do. Coming up next, man, we're going to talk Jayden Daniels, do the deep dive on him, and then bring in Caleb Williams, right? What is Caleb Williams doing? What is his situation? And what is the future expectations for Caleb Williams to finish out this season? We're going to talk about all that and more coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Guys, sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. Guys, download the app today and use the code LOCKEDON NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDON NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Missing someone this holiday season and want them to be a part of your festivities from afar? Doesn't matter if they're in the military, doesn't matter if they live in a whole different state or across the country. Guys, you can still be connected to the people you love and care about. We've got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame your whole family will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. Setup takes less than 60 seconds. Invite friends and family to easily share photos via the free Skylight mobile app or email. No account or subscription required. Swipe through photos. Tap to see new photos sent. Tap the heart button to say thank you to the sender. And now, as a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $20 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NFL. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NFL and get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com. Jayden Daniels for the Washington Commanders, Keith, a guy that started the season out hot. Started the season out really hot, man. Like, he was balling, like, just looked like the offensive rookie of the year. People already calling him special. You had people on ESPN saying that he was the MVP over Lamar Jackson. It was getting, the takes were getting crazy out here, Keith. And then he got hurt. And against Chicago, he ended up having the bounce back game with I think he got hurt against Carolina. He came back against Chicago, because he only played 2 snaps, 2 dropbacks, 2 passes against Carolina, got hurt. Came back against Chicago. They won on that Hail Mary, right? And then he was solid against Chicago. He only completed 55% of his passes, but the yardage, all because of the Hail Mary, boosted it a lot. 326, 1 touchdown. That was the Hail Mary. Against the Giants, 15-22, 68% completion percentage, 209 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns. Against Pittsburgh, 17-34, 50% completion, 202 yards passing, average less than 6 yards per attempt, no passing touchdowns, and no interceptions. Against the Eagles on Sunday, 22 of 32, 68.8, 191 in everything. Or against the Eagles in Week 11, 191, 6 yards, 6 yards per attempt. He had the touchdown. And then against Dallas, in which I'm not putting that loss on him. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
You can't let Turpin do what he did. You know what I mean, with that kick return.
He hit y'all with some park ball stuff, right? Like, that was some stuff
that was some stuff off a video game, man.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It was like
you just hit the B button by
stuff.
accident. And it's just like, oh, it worked. You know what I mean? But against Dallas, he was solid, right? He had the 2 interceptions, and it's like that was his first multi-interception game this season. He had 2 touchdowns, 3 total touchdowns, because he had the long run for a touchdown as well for, like, I think 23 yards or something like that. 2 passing touchdowns, completed close to 66% of his passes, and 275 yards through the air. I right now, Keith, and I'm grading him on the curve because I think he's still hindered by that rib injury. Like, those are injuries. They didn't give a full extent of what the injury was, but rib injuries don't just go away. It depends on how severe it was. If it was a bruise, it was a cartilage issue, whatever the case may have been. Like, he's not the same guy we saw early in the season. And then let's talk about it real quick. This could be a situation of Cliff Kingsbury being Cliff Kingsbury. What do people don't want to blame Kyler Murray, but it's like down the stretch of his career with Cliff being the head coach and play caller in Arizona, down the back stretch of the season, defenses caught up to what he was doing. That it didn't take an off season to figure it out. It was mid-season. They were like, okay, this is what you're doing. This is how we're going to stop it, and it worked. So I think for me, I give Jayden these past 4 games, I give him a C+, Keith. I give him a C+. He's not been able to run that's how I feel like that rib is a problem. He's not running the ball as much as he was. You know what I mean? Getting out of trouble, just using his legs outside of the Dallas game, 7 for 75 and that touchdown. I give him a C+. I think he's still dealing with that rib. And he just hasn't been the same guy since he got hurt against Carolina.
Yeah, so DP, I messed up, right? I didn't finish off Bo Nix. I give him an A too. I didn't give him a grade. I give Bo Nix an A. Looking at Jayden, I give Jayden. I'm right there with it, a C, right? I think he's been playing okay football at the end of the day. What worries you is that, like you said, like his 2-interception game came this past weekend against Dallas, and you just hope that he's not trending in the other way. You hope that offensively that it wasn't a situation where it's a brand new scheme with a brand new quarterback, a brand new situation, and then we seen them peak, right? And then you hope now that they can, I guess, kind of evolve and do something different, right? Because like you said, it appears that defenses have caught up. I think if you read off the last 4 games, I think one of those games was the Steelers, right?
Yeah.
That
Steelers,
they played.
Giants, Pittsburgh, Philly, Dallas. Yep.
Yeah,
They've lost 3 in a
like
row.
the Steelers was kind of like the blueprint game of like how to like slow him and stop him. And then I think now people are kind of probably repeating game plans on contain them, make them throw, even like where you flush him out, right? Don't flush him out to his right, flush him out to his left, force him to do certain things. And then also too, DP, if you just look at the schedule, because I think of the first 7 games, 2 of them was against the New York Giants, right? I think he played the Giants twice, the Panthers. And so I just think that he's also at a rougher part of the schedule, right? Like these teams look like more of the playoff teams versus what the beginning of the year was for Jayden.
Yeah, no, 100%. And when you look at the rush attempts, right? Again, to start the season, against Tampa Bay, 16. Against New York, week 2, 10 for 44. He had 88 against Tampa. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. Against Cincinnati, 12 for 39 in the touchdown. Arizona, 8, 47 in the touchdown. Cleveland, 11, 82. Then he, like I said, against Baltimore, they kept them. Baltimore is another team that, like, because Baltimore's secondary has been getting, like, their pass rush isn't working. The pass defense is bad. So he had success through the air, but they locked him down and they kept him and contained them in the pocket. Only had 6 rush attempts. Then against Carolina, he had 3 rush attempts for 50 yards, and he had a big, long 46-yard run. And I think that's where he might have gotten hurt, was running the ball. Then after that, he's only had 2 games since then over 50 yards. He has not rushed double-digit times since like week 5 against Cleveland or something like that. So like the run game, which is something that he does to set himself up and get himself comfortable, get himself going, Keith. And we just haven't seen that same guy. And like I said, I think the injury is still bothering him. And I think also, like, at the same time, we got to talk about it. Like, they got Terry McLaurin. Zach Ertz is older.
They don't have any wide receivers. Like remember DP, we was on a staff call when they traded away Jahan Dotson, and we was like, oh man, this gotta mean they're going to get Brandon Ayuk, right? Like this makes too much sense. Adam Peters from San Fran, Brandon Ayuk wants to be paid. They just traded away their number 2. All the stars aligned.
That first round pick in the heartbeat, man.
And then it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen at all, DP. So I think you're starting to see that now too, is that, and Terry McLaurin's making plays, right? He made plays in just this past weekend's game. But I think that you're starting to see a cap on what actual skill position players. DP, we have a couple minutes to transition. You want to get into this Caleb Williams conversation? We could start it and then transition after the segment.
Yeah, no, like Caleb Williams, I think looking at the last 4 games for him, Keith, he's played Minnesota Sunday, Green Bay the week before, New England, and Arizona. They've lost 5 straight games. Remember, they fired Shane Waldron, right? And against Arizona, 22 of 41, 217 yards passing, 0 passing touchdowns. New England, they lost 19-3. He was 16 of 30, 120 yards, 0 passing touchdowns. Green Bay was better, right? 23 of 31, 231, 0 passing touchdowns. Then, like against the Vikings, he was 32 of 47, 340 yards passing, 68% completion, 2 passing touchdowns. I feel like the change at OC from going from Shane Waldron to Thomas Brown is starting to reap its benefits now.
Yep.
I think it's starting to reap his benefits. He's looking more comfortable, right? Like it's crazy when you call plays that a quarterback or a player likes. It tends to happen that way, Keith. And I think he's going to be trending. I think you used the word trends early in the show. Trends. I think he's going to start to trend upward. And when you look at these last 4 games, I give him a C minus. I give him a
Mhm.
C minus. Like, cause it hasn't been great, but the last two games have been the most encouraging against two good teams, two playoff teams in your division with that can put up points, but also two good defenses as well. I think he's trending in the right direction. Now we just gotta see it continue. That connect the thing I want to see grow with him, Keith, is the deep ball. He hasn't been completing that. Him and Roma Dunze and stuff like that. They had a miss against Minnesota where Caleb, it was a miscommunication. Caleb thought that he was going to kind of bend the vertical route closer, I think, to the sideline. So he lofted it over in that direction, and it just kind of went over Roma Dunze's head. I think Rome was keeping straight up the field. So it's just like it's reps, right?
Stuff like
It's chemistry.
that. Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100% with DP. That's what we're going to do, man. We're going to continue this Caleb Williams conversation. I'm going to give my grade, my synopsis coming up after this segment, and we're going to talk about Drake Maye. So Caleb Williams, Drake Maye coming up next.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch or an urge in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you placed your bets. All you need to do to get in on the action is just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 back in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. You'll get started with $150 back in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, to get in on the action, just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. Keith, you weren't able to really dive into the Caleb Williams conversation. You got your grade and your synopsis. When you watch the tape, you look at the numbers, how have you graded them? How do you feel about Caleb Williams right now?
Yeah, DP, I think it's been the ultimate roller coaster, and of all the rookies, he's probably the guy that I've watched the most, right? And I think it's like you said, it's a clear change from going to Thomas Brown, right? From what they were doing previously, like under Shane Waldron, right? And it was just a bunch of things that just didn't fit, right? Like the routes ran, or the expectations ran by the wide receiver profiles that they have. It just didn't fit. Now, if I grade Caleb Williams the last 4 games, I think it balances out to a C, right? But if I grade him under Thomas Brown specifically, I think he's been playing B+ football, right? Like, he's been playing solid football. I do agree with you. And this is something that I've seen, and this was even under Shane Waldron, right? The misses, the inaccuracies, the just flat out misses, and he's missing high. He's missing high with a lot of velocity. Even on the vertical routes, it's like the ball is just like, it's still taking off. You know what I'm saying? Like, even when it get close to the wide receiver, like that thing is just still going. And I'm trying to, like, he has to take something off of it. I think that he's more concerned about throwing the interception. So he like either wants it to be a completion, or it's just nobody can touch it, right? Like that type of situation. And I get it, protecting the football, not want to be a guy that turns the football over. But the thing about Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, right? These are just not run away from guy type guys, right? Especially Keenan Allen. So sometimes you got to work that back shoulder. You got to throw that 50-50 ball in the vicinity for a big chunk play to be able to let Keenan make a play on the football. So even DJ Moore, right? Like, he's not a immediate separator. Like, that's not what these guys do. So I think that's what didn't fit with Shane Waldron. I think Caleb has to work on giving the guys more of a chance at the football, potentially taking some velocity off of it and kind of throwing, just tossing it out there a little bit and letting them go track it and make a play on it. But I look at what Caleb did this past weekend against Green Bay. I don't even know, that's what, like a 20-30 yard dig route, I think, to DJ Moore. I know it was in the middle of the field. That looked like Caleb Williams at USC, right? That looked like the stuff that got him to win the Heisman, and that stuff that got you excited. So I think that if they add more rhythm and routine, I would say this, that so a B under Thomas Brown, a C under Shane Waldron. I'll leave it at a B-. I think he's playing decent. He's not turning the football over, so I'll give him credit for that. But I'll say this, that wrapping up this Caleb conversation, that you look at it in totality, I think if there was a guy to catch Bo, it may be Caleb heating up down the back end stretch.
Yeah. I think with that game against Minnesota on Sunday, like that was I think that might have been his best game of the season. You know what I mean?
Feel like it too. Yeah, to throw two
of
touchdowns
his
and
season so
300
far.
plus yards.
Yeah, no, that literally was his best game of the season. He's had that was his third 300 plus yard game. He had a 300-yard game against.
Well, you know what? The Jacksonville game was pretty solid. He had 4 touchdowns and 1 interception.
Yep. He threw against Carolina. He was good too. 20 of 29 for 304 and 2 touchdowns. But I think this game was the game where you kind of felt like the play calling and him and confidence, it just looked like everything is coming together. That's why I think he's trending upward, Keith. But let's jump to Drake Maye, man. Let's jump to Drake Maye over the last 4 games. Drake Maye has been, and it's crazy. It's just tough. He's been last 4 games. He's been on the road 3 times in the last 4, right? So Tennessee, they lost in overtime. He was 29 of 41, 206 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 2 interceptions. But he did add 8 carries for 95 yards on the ground in that game. Again, when he faced Caleb Williams, he was 15 to 25, 184 yards passing, 1 passing touchdown, interception against the Rams. A close loss against the Rams. It was 28 to 22. He was 29 of 39, 282 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 interception. And against the Miami Dolphins, of the game the Dolphins just basically controlled, Drake Maye was 22 of 37, 222 yards, less than 60% completion on Sunday, 1 passing touchdown, 1 interception. He has been sacked in the last 4 games, Keith. He's been sacked roughly, I would say, let me see, because DP does math. So, like, that's about 12 times, 12 sacks in the last 4 from the looks of it. Yes, 12 in the last 4. And so you see, like, the rookie, just ups and downs, peaks and valleys, right? Like, the turnovers and stuff. But I think it was it the Rams game? I think it was, where I was watching tape on it. And I was just like, okay, some of these throws are not normal throws. Like, I'm just going to put that up. Like, his arm talent is legit. Like, he's making throws off platform and driving and drilling them down the field. And I'm like, with pressure. And I'm like, man. So, like, if you're the Patriots, you say, okay, we don't have a Drake Maye problem. We have a roster problem, and let's fix that this offseason or take a step towards it. I think in these last 4 games, because I would give him a C minus. Yeah, I'll give him a C minus. I think he's been okay. All O-line, we knew that was going to be a problem coming in, that they did not address the offensive line in the draft or in the offseason, really, like the tackle spot, left tackle and everything like that. That's been kind of a turnstile at that spot. Receivers are young for the most part. They're trying to learn themselves. Yeah, I give him a C minus, D plus, C minus, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go a C plus, because I think he in a vacuum has been playing solid football, right? It's been bad stuff around him, but put in the context of rookies, right, and everything he's had to endure, I think he's been playing pretty decent football. And like you said, I think it was that Rams game, because I watched that game too, and I was like, And it was one of those situations, right, where it looked like the Rams were just going to kind of take off, but Drake Maye kept making enough plays to keep that game close. And you've seen that, and you're like, okay, this guy potentially could get some things done overall. And I'm looking at his numbers, DP. I think it looks like he's consistently around that 200 yardish mark, right, with a touchdown or 2 each and every game. And so I think the consistency is there. It's obviously going to be limiting the turnovers, but the New England Patriots, I think you have to feel like, hey, we got us a quarterback, right? If we do the stuff we have to do, we can get some things done. And then I'm looking at it from this perspective too, that the New England Patriots, I was just looking at this, I think they have the most salary cap to spend this offseason, right? So that means you can go get veteran offensive linemen, you can go get a wide receiver, and you can still go draft offensive linemen and wide receivers, right? Like, there's no reason.
T. Higgins, like, he's going to be a free agent. Like, that's a situation. Now, don't get me wrong. Yeah, you want to be able that I think, to your point, I'm glad you dropped that nugget about the salary cap, because this team needs to go into free agency and spend wisely. Go get those veterans, man. Like, so when you get to the draft, Keith, if you're at pick 6 or 7 or 5, and okay, you don't need a quarterback. You don't got to reach for nothing. Like, you don't have to, well, I got to take Kelvin Banks or Will Campbell at tackle. No, I can get the best player available. And if that's still Tator McMillan and you sign T. Higgins, I don't care. You take him. If it's Mason Graham, you take him to put him with Christian Barmore. If it's Abdul Cart, whoever the best player is, you take that. This offseason for the Patriots is going to be paramount because they could make some big headway and some big changes this offseason that could put them. I'm not saying it could be up there with Buffalo, but at least for one, you'd be better than the Jets. You know what I mean? You'd be better than the Jets. But then also you could possibly catch up to Miami.
No, 100%, right? Like it's there for the taking because like you said, you thought that you was going to automatically be forward, but you look at the Jets, you look at the Dolphins. I think if you figure out this offensive side of the football, you give yourself an opportunity at the end of the day. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. And you can find him on X at DP_NFL. Like we like to say, man, y'all can talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, guys. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.